Okay, if in case you didn't know, my name is Thomas, KI5OMW, and welcome to this tech session about Yaesu System Fusion. I'm going to briefly discuss what Fusion is and how it compares to other digital modes, what radios are suitable for Fusion, and how to program your equipment to utilize Fusion. And we'll have plenty of time at the end for discussion and questions. So, with that, we'll move right on in. We'll start with a quick comparison of System Fusion with other popular digital modes, DMR and D-Star, namely. All three of these digital modes use a type of FSK, or frequency shift keying, to transmit the digital data. The details are not too important, but System Fusion and DMR both use a four-state frequency shift keying, while D-Star uses a two-state Gaussian minimum shift keying, or GMSK. Like I said, details aren't important, but the takeaway is that D-Star has half of the available bandwidth that DMR or Fusion have, with a total of 4 kilobits per second. Whereas System Fusion and DMR use their total bandwidth of 9.6 kilobits per second differently, however. DMR divides this bandwidth between two available time slots, making it possible to have two independent conversations simultaneously, while System Fusion uses half of the available bandwidth for voice and half for data in normal mode, with the option of switching to wide voice mode, which uses all available bandwidth for voice. This wide mode offers a much better sounding voice communication than that many operators prefer to the more robotic sounding DMR and D-Star. Programming a code plug for each of these radio types is also very different. DMR by far is the most complicated and challenging for new users. You will often have many channels, each dedicated to a different talk group or time slot, even when using a single repeater or hotspot. D-Star is reportedly somewhat easier, although I must confess I've never used it. And finally, System Fusion is very easy, requiring only that you set up a channel as you would for a typical FM analog repeater and set that channel to digital mode, and you're finished. One more difference I'd like to mention, though, is the equipment required to operate each mode. D-Star and System Fusion are the higher priced options, with System Fusion limited to Yaesu radios only, and D-Star limited to radios with a license from ICOM to implement D-Star technology. Examples are Kenwood and ICOM, typically. DMR, though, is available from a lot of Chinese radios, which are relatively low cost, including, of course, Baofeng, Radioddity, Anytone, and others. System Fusion seems to be the most limited, as only Yaesu radios can utilize the technology, but it is gaining in popularity in our area, however. And new users are finding the easy programming and better sound quality to be increasing its popularity. Next, well, a quick explanation of frequency shift keying, and in particular C4FM, in case you're curious. Frequency shift keying is a method of encoding digital data on a frequency modulated carrier. Instead of modulating or deviating the signal continually across the available portion of the spectrum as with analog audio, there are discrete frequency deviations representing digital data states. As mentioned earlier, D-Star uses two states representing either a 1 or a 0. System Fusion, and also DMR if you're keeping score, uses 4 discrete deviations representing 2 bits of data each. This modulation type is called compatible 4-level frequency modulation, or C4FM. The chart here shows the 4 deviations from the carrier's center frequency and what bit pair each represents. There is, of course, no need to understand this to use System Fusion, but I did want to at least introduce it here so you can begin to understand how digital data is transmitted. As mentioned earlier, there's more than one digital mode configuration in System Fusion. The default, or DN, or digital narrow mode, in that mode, half of the available bandwidth is for digital voice and the other half is for data. The data portion can include things like GPS location, text messages, weather data, and some other even pictures, I think. There's also a higher quality voice mode called VW mode that uses all the available bandwidth for voice. This mode sounds much better for voice communication and must be enabled in the radio settings, but we'll get to that in a bit. And finally, there is a DW, or data wide mode, that uses all available bandwidth for data in special applications. So, what radios are available for using System Fusion? Here we see some examples of digital capable radios from Yaesu. Remember, there are no other radio brands that are capable of System Fusion, as it is a proprietary mode exclusive to Yaesu. This list is representative of what is currently commercially available, but there are other Fusion-capable radios still around on the second-hand market. With the exception of the 991A, radios with DR in the model number are capable of System Fusion. But don't confuse that with the many HF rigs with DX in the model number. In the specifications, they will explicitly state that the radio is C4 FM capable, so look for that to be sure. I have experience programming the FT5DR, the FTM500DR, and the FT991A. Setting these radios up for fusion operation is very easy, and we'll have a look at that in the next section. There's no need to worry about wires X, reflectors, rooms, or any other terminology that muddies the waters. First, a fusion-capable radio will ask you to input your call sign at the first power-up. This is necessary. Then, you can simply set up a channel exactly as you would for traditional FM analog, with the exception that the mode setting must be a digital mode. After that, you can talk to other Fusion users and you will be able to see each other's call signs on the screen. As for the digital modes, there are 3 available to choose from with slightly different functionality. First, AMS, which stands for Automatic Mode Select. With this chosen, your radio will determine if an incoming signal is digital or analog and set the channel to operate accordingly. This way, you can share a channel with other Fusion and non-Fusion users and be able to communicate with both of them. When this mode is active, the mode indication on the display will change to indicate AMS mode is active. For example, in the case of the FTM500, you will see either FM or DN for analog and digital, but the indicator will have a horizontal line over the letters to let you know that that mode is set and it will automatically change. Is set to automatically change. The next digital mode is DN, or digital narrow. This is the standard Fusion mode that uses half of the available bandwidth for voice and the remainder for data. This mode will be able to send and receive additional information like GPS position data and text messages if enabled. For example, with GPS enabled, you will see the distance and bearing to any other Fusion radio you receive a signal from, as long as their GPS is also enabled. Finally, VW, or voice wide, is the last digital mode option. This one, as I mentioned previously, uses all available bandwidth for encoding voice and has the best sounding voice reproduction. Digital VW likely needs to be enabled in the radio settings before it becomes available as a choice in the mode column, and that setting is shown in the lower right image. And call sign information is still transmitted and received, so you can see the other station's call sign on your display, even in voice wide mode. Now we'll take a moment to look at a repeater channel setup. Everything is exactly the same as a simplex channel with the addition of an offset frequency. Some repeaters offer dual mode and can be used in both analog and digital modes. In this case, you would want to set the tone mode and PL tone as appropriate for the repeater's analog functionality, and then either use AMS mode or become familiar with switching from analog to digital. With the touchscreen display of the FTM500, you would simply touch the mode indication part of the screen to switch between modes. In digital modes, the PL tone is ignored, so is not relevant to digital-only repeaters. And unlike DMR, all room or reflector connectivity is handled in the repeater. There is no need to program the room numbers into your repeater channels. Now the confusing stuff. What exactly is WiresX? WiresX is Yaesu's proprietary technology for linking digital repeaters and radios. A WiresX node consisting of a Yaesu digital radio and a Yaesu HRI 200 WiresX interface connected to the internet can make a connection to a WiresX room. The room is a virtual space on the internet, allowing multiple WiresX node connections to link together and share traffic. The WiresX interface can be instructed to connect to any existing room number and talk to other radios whose interface is also connected to that room. This setup is not the same as YSF reflector and is not readily compatible. Therefore, node numbers and reflector numbers are not interchangeable. We'll have more on reflectors coming up next, but the takeaway here is that WiresX refers to all of the hardware, software, and network technology Yaesu has developed with the purpose of linking System Fusion repeaters together. So what exactly is the difference between a reflector and a room? A reflector is a server on the internet that creates a hub allowing System Fusion users to connect to each other using something like an MMDVM hotspot. Multiple hotspots and MMDVM-equipped repeaters can connect to the reflector and share traffic. The CRHRC reflector US-CRHRC-TX, or reflector number 62426, is an example of this functionality. The Fusion repeater in Edna has an MMDVM board running that can connect to the US.CRHRC-TX reflector. If a hotspot user then connects their hotspot to the same reflector, their traffic will be shared with the Edna Fusion repeater. A room is similar, except it is restricted to Yaesu's WiresX network. To connect to a room, a user must have a radio with WiresX interface, like the previously mentioned HRI 200, or be within range of a WiresX-enabled repeater. Rooms and reflectors can be bridged, however. Some systems that are bridged can allow a user to either use either a room or a reflector depending on their hardware. The traffic between the room and reflector is seamlessly tied together behind the scenes without the user even being aware. CRHRC is currently working on creating a bridged network to link the existing US.CRHRC-TX reflector with the WiresX room. Bill might be able to tell us a little bit more about that later. So using a hotspot. On the last couple of slides, I'll take a look at what settings you need to have enabled to connect to a reflector with your MMDVM hotspot. Assuming you have the hotspot connected to the internet and have access to the dashboard and configuration pages, setting up Yaesu System Fusion mode is very simple. On the configuration page, simply make sure YSF mode is enabled and apply the changes. Once done, the YSF configuration section will become available. And that's the part at the bottom of the screen there. There you can choose the startup host, which is just the default reflector you want to connect to at boot up. And you can also, I recommend, enable WiresX pass-through. This allows you to instruct the hotspot to display a list of reflectors on the radio screen and then change reflectors. This process being started by pressing the WiresX button on the radio without the need to use DTMF commands. This is the same MMDVM hotspot dashboard showing another way to change reflectors with this drop-down list on the dashboard. You can easily browse and change anytime. Highlighted here is the CRHRC reflector as it appears in the list. And with that, I think that's enough information to process right now. Since this is a Zoom-only session, I guess we can move right into discussion about what I've presented here. So let's move on. Does anybody have any questions or have anything to say?
I do, W5BSA.
Sure.
So like here in Houston on Wednesday night is the worldwide AMSAT net, and it's on the AMSAT talk group, which is 98006. So like Bill, Bill K5LK and I, we have our 442.5 repeater, and it's got a YSF reflector on it. So you probably know where I'm going with my question by now. So can we get on the, so how would we do the YSF reflector on the hub so that we could listen on 442.5 to the MSAT talk group? Does that make sense what I'm asking?
I believe so. The talk group you're talking about, is that a reflector or a room? That's what I was kind of getting at here.
I just know it's Walter has it set up. Walter K5WH has it set up. It's we just call he got it set up. It's called a talk group. It's 98006.
I haven't heard any Yaesu equipment or anything referred to as a talk group. It's always either a room or a reflector or something similar. Talk group is DMR terminology.
Okay,
Yeah,
let's say it's a reflector then.
If it's a reflector, then any MMDVM hotspot will be able to easily connect to it just by changing it here. And this is the dashboard for my hotspot, and you put the reflector there. It's YSF 62426 is the CRHRC reflector, and make sure link is ticked there and request change, and it'll connect to it.
Actually, I think it's Brandmeister. So on the hotspot,
And Brandmeister, that's going to be DMR.
Yeah, Joe,
Walter's
I just
Walter's
confirmed that.
I'm sorry.
This is Bill. I just confirmed that. I looked it up on Google, and 98006 is a DMR trunk group for AMSAT. They also have a Fusion, and I'm still looking to see if this is a reflector or a wires X room. I'm believing it to be a reflector. It was US-AMSAT. And I'm going to see if I can find that right quick while we go on, so I can tell you if it's a room or reflector.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, well, Bill's looking that up. Anybody else have a comment or question?
So Thomas, I do.
Okay.
KJ5ADO. So if I wanted to get into the CRHRC reflector, what would be the advantage or disadvantage of using the voice wide or the digital narrow? What would each get me?
The voice wide is going to sound a lot better.
Okay.
You're going to sound more like yourself and less like a robot, and
Okay.
you'll be a whole lot easier to listen to. For our reflector, we're not doing a lot with digital data, so you wouldn't gain anything with the digital narrow mode.
Okay.
I don't believe you would. It's possible to send text messages and things to each other, but I don't know that anybody's really doing that.
Isn't that the default?
That answers my question. What, Phil?
DN is the default, Phil. You're right.
Okay.
There is one technical caveat in the digital narrow and the voice wide mode. Digital narrow, while it is a smaller bandwidth, uses forward error correction to try to help and correct bad packets along the way. Voice wide, there's no error correction at all, but the quality is consistently better. So a little bit of trade-off, if you want to have forward error correction, maybe on a weaker signal where you're losing a few bits or packets here and there. But in my radios, I set them to voice wide and leave it because the quality is better in that mode.
Doesn't matter if it's mobile or base or whatever.
Nope.
And Phil,
They'll all have those choices.
the page I'm sharing now, it has the picture on the bottom right. That's where you have to enable it there first. And there's a way to go in the radio menu without using the software and enable it. I didn't take a picture of that. This is in the programming software. There's a section where you have to go in and enable that digital VW.
Okay. I have the
And-
software, so that would probably be easier.
Yeah, if you don't do that, it won't even show up in the list
No, because
under
I've
the
never
digital
seen
analog
them.
in the channel list.
And that's in the programming software? Is that which software are you using?
It's the one that
Comes with the-
I forget what it's called. It's on the Yaesu website for the particular
Right.
radios.
Right,
It's almost identical, the one for
Right.
the handheld and the one for the 500.
yep.
For the 991, I have the RT Systems software. I didn't look in that one to see how they handle it in there. I just use the Yaesu software.
I did just confirm, folks, that the US-AMSAT is a YSF reflector. It is not a wires X room.
That being the case, any MMDVM hotspot or MMDVM enabled repeater should be able to connect to it.
Correct.
I guess what my question is there a way for us on the in the All-Star in their hub where we've already got YSF set up to put that in there so we could hear what's going on?
If you
Yeah.
have access to the dashboard, it's very easy. You can just put it in. But if you don't, you should be able to hit the Wires X button on your radio, and your radio will negotiate with the repeater, and you'll go to an interface where you can put in the reflector number.
And what was that again, Bill, please?
The reflector name is US-AMSAT, and I'm looking to see right now if I can find the actual, they call it a DTMF ID is what the digits will be called. And I'm still looking for that one, Joe.
Thank you. That would be
You
really cool.
You can use your radio's interface to search by the name. Also, I find it easier to use the DTMF ID. It's just 5 numbers.
Thomas, I have a question here from Alfredo KJ5JMI. He
Okay.
says, he asks, does a reflector mean it can only be used for Yaesu digital radios?
Yes, a Yaesu System Fusion reflector is going to be only for Yaesu digital. But these hotspots, like this page we're looking at now, my digital hotspot there, you can do other modes with it, but it won't connect to the System Fusion reflector if it's not a System Fusion radio.
And Thomas, maybe I can throw something out that'll help that a little bit. When you think of YSF, Yaesu System Fusion, think of that as the mode that your radio is transmitting from radio to radio or radio to repeater. Then depending upon how it's going to connect with another system, either another repeater or a system in another part of the world, that's where you get into the difference between a YSF reflector, which is typically an MMDVM solution, or a Yaesu Wires X room. So you've got the Wires X rooms and the reflectors. They'll each have names and DTMF IDs, but they're not cross-system compatible.
Bill, do you think it's accurate to think of reflectors and rooms the same way we would think about Brandmeister and Seabridge?
I think that's a good analogy.
Okay.
That each of them is a specific flavor of connectivity, but without some really special magic going on in the background, you can't cross from one directly to the other.
Yeah, so just to clarify a little bit about his question, he says, does a reflector mean it can only be for Yaesu digital radio? So the word reflector is not just specific to Yaesu Fusion. It's like you have the East Coast reflector, which is a network.
All-Star Network.
Yeah, yeah. The word
word
reflector,
reflector-
referring
ahead.
to some kind of hub where things are linked, being referred to as a reflector. That's not unique to System Fusion, no.
Yeah, I just want to make sure we answered the other part of it very clearly. I want to make sure that wasn't his actual question. So,
Yeah, I made the assumption that we were talking specifically System Fusion reflector, but yeah.
Yeah,
we'll
thank
cover
you
everything
for
there.
that, Darren.
yeah. He said yes, thanks. So he got his answer.
We got
whichever
it,
way.
yeah.
Good.
Hello, I have a comment. This is Robert in Livingston. We have 4 repeaters tied in, one in Huntsville, one in Cold Spring, and one in Baytown. They're all very good repeaters, but we do have bridges, and this is on the Patriots room. If y'all haven't been on it, you might want to try it. Also, here in Livingston, we have a Fusion repeater for digital only, and we have that set up to where we can change the room. Normally it defaults to the Patriots room, but we can change that room and go to any reflector that we want to with it. For example, Kansas City wide or the San Antonio area, we will put that on there lots of times. You can talk on it, or you can talk on it without, being connected anywhere also.
Yeah, that's a good point. The repeater doesn't have to necessarily be connected to any room at all, and it still works as a standalone digital repeater. And then if it is connected to a room, then the purpose of that would be linking with other repeaters.
Yeah, and Tom,
Right now, if I may comment, we have 2 HRI 200s, and that's all run by our custodian of the repeaters. And right now we're having a little bit of problem with the second HRI 200 because it's all connected up to the same computer. We're working on that, trying to straighten it out. It was working real good, and it just changed for some reason.
So Thomas, that may be a good segue into what we're working on for Crossroads, if you want me to go into that just a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, very good. And before I do, I did find the DTMF ID for the AMSAT reflector. If anybody wants to write that down, it is 11689. Repeat, 11689. So if you're entering it by DTMF digit ID, it's that number. Or if you're looking it up on the scroll list, it would show up as US-AMSAT. So,
Thank
okay,
you.
so you're quite welcome. Yeah, we're working behind the scenes to expand the YSF coverage for Crossroads Network. And just like Roger was saying, I think it sounds like they're probably doing, currently doing what we're planning on doing and currently working on. But keep in mind that, again, if you're talking YSF, you're talking about the protocol of the signal that's leaving the radio, going to the repeater, and back and forth. How you connect that repeater or you connect to another system is where the reflector, a YSF reflector or wires X room comes into play. So picture this, the repeater that we currently use in Jackson County is an MMDVM repeater that is connected to a YSF reflector. That's one that Thomas mentioned earlier. But also the traffic, the RF traffic that's going through the air, we're going to receive that and feed it to a CRHRI 200, which is Yaesu's Wire X box. And we already have a Wires X room, a Wires X node, and a Wires X room for Crossroads. We'll be announcing those shortly in the newsletter. But the process that we're going to end up here is that when an RF signal, a YSF RF signal goes through the air, which is a YSF transmission, it's going to be received simultaneously by the MMDVM board to feed it to the Yaesu System Fusion reflector and to the Wires X receiver, which will feed it to the Yaesu Wires X network. In reverse, if we have, if the guys in Huntsville, for example, want to connect via Wires X, they can make a connection to the Crossroads Wires X room. That traffic will come out RF, the repeater will pick it up and repeat it. So as we deploy additional repeaters through the network, and we're discussing right now kind of an overlay network, the All-Star network will always remain a traditional FM network. We're not going to intermix the digital modes with the analog FM, but we're working on deploying a Yaesu System Fusion network in key spots throughout the Crossroads coverage area, so that that signal, whether it comes in from a Yaesu System Fusion reflector or from a Wires X reflector, it will be repeated through the entire network. The key point of that is, as a user, it's just important that you have a Yaesu radio that's programmed with the local YSF repeater to receive that traffic so that you can receive and talk back to your nearest YSF repeater. We're going to take care of the magic in the background as far as whether it goes over Wires X or it comes in from Yaesu System Fusion reflector. So the only time that that's going to be critical to a user is if you're traveling with an MMDVM hotspot and you want to connect in with the MMDVM hotspot, you'll be able to use the Crossroads YSF reflector number or the reflector name and connect back into the network. Or if you happen to have a Yaesu radio and what do they call it? A PDN, personal digital node configuration, where you can connect, for example, a Yaesu handheld radio directly to your personal computer and become your own node, and then say, okay, I want to connect to the Crossroads Wires X room. That's another method of getting access into a Fusion network. And as we get to the point to where we're actually deploying this, I foresee several other tech nets coming up in our future.
Yeah, very good, Bill. That was very understandable.
We have another question from Randall KJ5JSC. He asks, is there a technology that allows analog folks, and oops, I just had a pop-up here, analog folks to connect to YSF through a hotspot-like device?
Thomas, you want to start that one, or you want me to take it?
Well, yeah, go ahead. I was just thinking about that one, and if you got a fast answer, go ahead and start it. I might have something to add to it.
This is an MMDVM hotspot. I think these are typically, what, $100 on Amazon. We'll put one of these in your hands. And as long as you have a YSF capable radio, you transmit to this device. This device connects to your hotspot on your phone for an internet connection. And then you have total access to select any YSF reflector from this box to connect to any YSF reflector in the world.
And Bill, I think I understood the question a little differently. I think it was an analog, a radio transmitting an analog through some device that would get you to digital.
I just reread the question, and you're exactly right.
Yeah, I don't think that's possible, but the MMDVM hotspots will translate between digital modes from DMR to
Correct.
System Fusion or System Fusion to DMR, but not analog.
Correct. The Yaesu repeaters, the Yaesu YSF repeaters does have technology in it to where it can receive a signal from an analog radio into the digital repeater, and it can send that traffic onto the WiresX network as an analog signal, or it can transcode it in the repeater into a digital signal and send it out into the WiresX network. That's a pretty advanced feature. I don't know of any systems that are doing it currently. Where that comes into play and where it would be applicable and usable is if you have a community that only has one repeater. It's been a traditional analog FM repeater forever and ever. And, maybe the local club says, we want to experiment with a digital repeater. And ultimately, we think we want to go to digital. So we're going to buy this repeater and put it in. And instead of just automatically turning off all of the analog users where they no longer have access, the analog users can still talk to that repeater and be transcoded to digital signal so that they remain players in the game.
I got a question, Bill.
Yeah, go ahead, Phil.
What brand is that? MMDVM?
This was just an Amazon purchase.
There's a bunch of them on there.
Yeah. And mine is several years old, Phil. I haven't made a purchase recently, but I was thinking when I purchased it, they were just below $100,
Yeah,
right around
about
$100
now.
Okay.
Yeah, and they run on a Raspberry Pi Zero. That's still what they're using.
I built one this summer and I think it was about $79. And there's no soldering or anything. You just plug it in there.
Yeah, Brenda, I think the ones that are just over 100, you don't even have to assemble them. They just come right. You just plug it in and
What it
program.
looks like.
I put mine on a Raspberry 3, I think it was.
My understanding is the original inventor, they go under the name Zoom Spot. So if you go like to HRO and do a search for Zoom, ZUM, Zoom Spot, you'll find the latest device in there. They range anywhere from I think now from $125 to $200, depending on what feature set you want.
Yeah, I have one of those in my classroom. They're really nice. I mean, they come out of the box, turnkey. You don't even have to flash the software or anything on there. They're nice, but you pay for it.
Yeah.
I have one from HRO. It was around $200. It's a Pi-Star 4. But what I've done also is, as far as simplicity, I have the open spot, that I use mobile. And the beauty part of it is, it picks up my signal from my phone just like a Pi-Star. But I can plug it in, and I use the T70 HT, and you can talk all day long if you've got it plugged into your truck to keep it charged up. And this thing is wonderful. Anyway, they've got a open spot. This is open spot 4. They've got one that's a Pro also, and a lot of people that's using Apple phones, they'll use the Pro because it connects and stays connected a lot better.
Robert, is that the model that has a built-in battery?
Yes, it has a built-in battery.
I've heard some folks talking about those, and that open spot is an amazing device. Of course, the advantage of it having a battery is that you don't have to have a power supply for it specifically. You can charge it up, connect it, and you're ready to go.
You can charge it relatively easy, and it comes with a real nice operating system where you can change rooms real easy. And depending on where I'm going, I'll run a Patriots room normally, but if I want to, go to something else like Kansas City wide, I can switch over to it real easy. I really like it that way. And anyway, they've got that new one out too. There's just like a HT, but Kansas City wide's having problems with that bridging over into the different rooms. So they've asked them to go to a particular room with that particular HT, but that thing's about $400.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've heard lots of good things about the open spot models. I've never had hands on myself, but I've heard good reviews about them.
They're really easy to program, no problem.
Bill, have I heard you say that you have a clear?
Clear node?
Uh-huh.
Well, I do have a clear node that I use for my All-Star node. But and I heard somebody say Pi Star. That's what they called these devices, Pi Stars, and it's what I use for doing YSF connections back into a YSF network.
May I share my screen with you and ask you a question real quick?
Sure.
So let's see if I can find it. Give me just a second. Can you see it?
No, we don't have your screen yet.
Oh, here it is.
Now it's coming up.
Can you see the hub?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so here's my question. If you look right here, see where it says YSF, our All-Star Bridge, Katie?
Mm-hmm.
And Rob set this up for us. So I don't know what the 1010 number means here, but that's why I was asking you about the AMSAT. And so if we change that number to that DTMF number you gave us, 11689, then would we hear everything? Any users here? Would we hear anything going on the AMSAT, US AMSAT channel?
No, not you can't change your All-Star node number. What you're looking at there, Joe, that is the node 1010 is actually tied to another All-Star node that is a bridge and they have some special software going up that on their All-Star side, they have a bridge that goes from the YSF network over to the YSF network. So you're actually connected to the All-Star side of their bridge, if that makes sense. But you don't have the ability to change that bridge to a different YSF reflector.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So what am
Hey,
so
Joe, can I say something too real quick? This is Chris, W5CUY.
Yeah, please.
So those node numbers at 1010 and that 1009, Those are called pseudo nodes. They're not actual all-star node numbers that are registered on the all-star network. Those
Okay.
numbers that low are just internal to the own local system, to differentiate between different functions. You could think of it that way. So that 1010 is assigned to the All-Star Bridge, and the 1009 is assigned to the Echolink translation. They're locally on that server running in the RPT locally. So those numbers, I guess the easiest way to say it is they're called pseudo nodes, if that makes sense.
So if I wanted to, so how would I go about using the number as it is? How would I, if I've got my hotspot, how do I get into it?
You can't connect to that node number from the outside world. If that node number is only being used in translation on the local server where the hub node is. So you can't change that number to something else and have it connect to something else or anything like that. It's just really, I guess, to confuse you less, it shouldn't even have that number on there.
Yeah. Part of what it's used to create the magic inside of the box, if that helps any. There's magic going on inside the box that connects to.
If you were to think of like a local IP address or a public IP address, kind of the same thing, like the 192.168, inside your local network in your house, you can talk to each other and everything kind of works fine. But those don't have the capability to receive connections from the outside world. So it's more of the private side than the public side, if that doesn't confuse you more.
So when it says transmitting, I still don't, sorry to appear, ignorant, maybe it's a good word. I still don't understand what good it's doing then. When it says traffic, where's the traffic coming from? Is that just allowing somebody to use a Yaesu Fusion radio to come in there, or I still don't understand, sorry.
I don't understand on the Fusion side, but the pseudo nodes live inside the server, the same place that the hub node is registered into. So the hub node, whenever that all is connected to the hub node. So when somebody either keys up on Echolink or they key up on the All-Star side of things, it's pushed through the hub out to everything else that's connected to the hub on the All-Star side. So there's magic, like Bill and Thomas were talking about, that handles translation between the Yaesu language and, the analog language. That bridge, that's the translation, the bridge part of it, that's handled through that node number, that pseudo node number in the server itself.
I think maybe depending on the kind of traffic, it would get sorted and move through the pseudo node number and then get routed through the hub node. Like Echolink will come in on one number and System Fusion will come in on another, all inside the server.
Yes.
From the network. And it all gets routed out to the outside world through the hub node. And that's the number everybody can see, the longer number.
That make more sense, Joe?
To be honest, no.
So my understanding, and I don't know if I'm confused anymore, but depending on how you get into the system, whether by Yaesu or DMR or things.
Let's just stick to Yaesu. I want to use my Yaesu, my FTM500. I want to use my FTM500 to get in on the YSF reflector we just saw there on our hub. So what do I do?
And I think the problem that we're having answering your questions is we don't know exactly what that reflector is. So that would be a better question geared towards the person that set that up for you.
Okay.
Because it would be really, really nice if there was an easy way in All-Star to say, hey, I want to get this YSF traffic, but there's not an easy way. There's magic available, but there's not an easy way.
That actually answers my question, because I thought it was easy, that once that reflector was in this hub, then everything on this hub could talk to each other. Just like you just said, Echo Link can talk to people that are on RF, and RF can talk to people that are on their All-Star Shari node, and so forth. And so I just figured, oh, well, there's a YSF reflector. So how do we get in there to talk to everybody else on all the other ways they're coming in?
So I think that's exactly right. But as Bill stated, you just need to know what that reflector is, so then you can connect to it via your FTM 500.
I have a question on your 500. Have you used it on the YSF rooms yet?
I haven't. Maybe somebody else has.
We do here in Jackson County. We have a YSF repeater, and we use it that way commonly.
Yeah, okay. He can program other rooms in it real easily. You should be able to switch it over with the wires X and put that node not the node, but the YSF room that you want to go to, for example, with your 500. I use 300. I have two 300s, and I can do that with mine. You have to do it through a repeater system. I'd be able to change it over. But anyway, I have several different rooms on my 300s.
And Thomas referred to that just a little bit in his presentation, that's called putting your radio in command mode, so that you can send DTMF digits from the microphone and change the reflector that it's connected to. Now, it is important to know that that is a function that the repeater trustee can enable or disable at the repeater. So a lot of times when you get like the network that Crossroads will be building, we will be connecting those YSF repeaters through a combination of YSF reflectors and wires X rooms. So we will not enable command mode so that can change without the system administrators knowing it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It took me a while, Robert, to figure out how to work the command mode, but once you do, that is a pretty cool feature.
Yeah, on the 300, it's real easy. Like on that fusion repeater we have, it's up 440 feet. So, I can change it over to any room I want to through that repeater. And it works real good. And it broadcasts Kansas City wide or San Antonio or any of them like that. Works real good.
And I think that's a real good and viable feature for, say, a community standalone repeater that you just want to connect it to different systems at different times, and it gives you a good variety.
Yes, it does. Sometimes even the Patriots room is busy and big as it is. Well, still it gets quiet time, so I'll switch it over lots of times and go to one of the other rooms somewhere. I made a mistake when I first started this. I set it up on America's link, and the problem with that is there's so many users, you have a hard time getting out of it. And
you can't get into a conversation, yes, sir.
I'm telling you,
you can't break it until it's quiet.
I never go to that website. I'm in that room anymore.
Bill, that reminds me of when DMR was popular, we'd go to one of the real busy rooms and then you couldn't leave.
Yeah.
You'd stuck in there. You can't give the hotspot the command to bail back out of it.
In WPSD, there's a way you could do it. You have to go in like an admin admin window and
Yeah.
I use that instead of 5-star, but you can bail out of it like that. But that's DMR. Don't want to jump into that one.
Yeah.
Do they have nets in rooms? Like, hey, we're going to have a net tonight at 8 o'clock in this room. Do they do stuff like that?
Yep.
They do. And at Crossroads, we've actually been connecting the YSF reflector into our Thursday night nets. We've had several nets where we've had multiple people have connected from the YSF, from a YSF reflector into the Crossroads reflector and checked into our analog net on Thursday nights. That's been pretty cool. But it does simulcast. It's on a schedule so that when we're doing a Thursday night net, that net is also simulcast on our Fusion repeater here in Jackson County.
Yep. And Bill, on that subject, this most recent net, I tried to check in that way and couldn't make it in. And I think we talked briefly about adding a quick section to the net for digital stations in with short time and mobiles.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about it, but never did it. But that may be worth revisiting. Because I tried to get in on digital this past net and couldn't get in. Finally, after a few tries, gave up and went analog.
Yeah, I agree, Thomas. I still support that 100%. I think it's a great idea. We just, I don't think we had time to take action on it, but it is something that I support doing.
Yeah, I think I ran the net the first time after we talked about that, and I completely forgot. But yeah, I think that may be a good idea.
So what he's talking about there, guys, is intentionally during the net control operator will call for any stations checking in using a digital technology because it's sometimes it's difficult for a digital mode because of just a little bit of inherent latency in their conversation. They think it's clear, they'll transmit, nobody hears them for half a second, so someone else starts to check in, and you end up with a lot of doubles, and the digital users are usually the losers in those battles. So if we specifically allocate a period of time during the net where we say, okay, calling for digital stations only now, please check in. And usually those guys know that they need to listen and wait a little bit between conversations, more so than most analog users do. And we think we can maybe make it a better experience for some of the digital users that are wanting to check in.
Guys, if you can see the chat, we have a couple more questions that have come in. If you can't see them, I can read them to you.
I can see them here, Brenda.
Okay.
I'll take G. Gruber's comment. He's asking, do you have to be able to reach the YSF repeater in Jackson County RF simplex, or is it possible to, say, use the Houston repeater and be linked to the YSF repeater in Jackson County? Currently, the Houston repeater would need to be connected to the Crossroads reflector. And if that were the case, you would be able to transmit to the Houston YSF repeater, and you would be your traffic would come out of the Jackson County YSF repeater. It's our goal as a club to start deploying some Yaesu System Fusion repeaters deeper into the network and maybe make contact with some repeater trustees that are already running some digital repeaters and see if we can build that network very much like the way that we have built the Crossroads All-Star network. So currently, if you're out of RF range, you would have to be within range of another repeater that is connected to the Crossroads reflector. And I hope that helps.
And Bill, there's another one from Randall. Does this mean that Crossroads will be adopting only Yaesu System Fusion encoding, or will it also support DMR and D-Star system-wide at some point? We already have a DMR talk group, is that correct? 11, I think it is?
We do, and there are currently 3 DMR repeaters in the Crossroads network. There's one in Jackson County, there's one in Wharton County, and there's one in Pasadena. So it's not contiguous coverage like the FM analog signal is, but it does get it a little bit further out. We chose to put our first focus in digital mode on YSF and work on that to push it out. And then, we will reevaluate and see if there's an opportunity to expand the DMR network. We currently don't have anything as far as D-Star capability that exists for Crossroads today.
And that's on purpose.
And that was a quote by Thomas Learn, KI5OMW.
And you've got a DMR question. Is DMR a Brandmeister or Seabridge?
Mike, we currently run on a Seabridge DMR controller. You're very welcome.
Okay, well, we're coming up on an hour here, so might want to start wrapping this up. If you got any more questions to ask. If not, but this
Thomas,
puppy to bed.
can we find your slides somewhere?
I just emailed Brenda the updated version. There was one that went out in email, I don't know, a day or two ago, maybe a few days ago, and I've made some minor wording corrections to that one, and I just sent Brenda the updated one while we were doing this. So that should be in her email, and Brenda, you can distribute that as you see fit.
I'll upload those to the TechNet page. There's already a slideshow already there. It's the preliminary one he had, but I'll get that changed out. May not be tonight, but I'll get that done here real soon.
We'll pay you overtime.
Double time of 0 is
Still 0.
still 0.
You know what
Joe,
the president says, no tax on overtime.
Joe, if you want to give me your email address, I can send it directly to you.
Teach 7th, like teach 7th grade, 7th spelled out, teach 7th at Gmail.
TEACH, number 7TH?
No, 7th spelled out, SEVENTH, teach 7th at Gmail.
Thomas, I've not done this personally, but are you aware of how to upload that to the chat and then make it available for people to download if they'd like to?
I do not know how to do that. I can try real quick.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh, there's a thing to a file. Okay. Well, it gives me an option for Google Drive and such. I wonder if I can do it this way. Can't just drag it into there.
We may need to do a little bit of more homework on that.
Mm-hmm. Oh, when I choose file, there's an option for my computer. So I'm sure it'll give me an Explorer window, but it's grayed out. Like I can't click it.
Yep.
I have an idea though. If I put it in a Google Drive and then use the Google Drive link, I should be able to put it in there.
Yep.
Hey, Robert, did you say your repeater is in Livingston or Lufkin?
Our high one, 450 feet up, is in Livingston, and
Okay.
then the one that's the trustee is in Cold Springs, and
Okay.
he's got a repeater over there dedicated to the patrons room, and that's all bridged into Huntsville and Baytown. We had a couple others in there, but they dropped out there.
Well, that's not gonna work easily. I don't know what's going on. We'll have to figure that out, do a little homework, and maybe make that work for next time.
Yeah, yeah, might want to try the Patriots room one day, especially with your 500, and try to connect into us. It's pretty popular.
It is well known. I listened to it a little bit when we were just first getting started with YSF, and I would switch between SADRC and Patriots, and what was it, the I-35 group?
Right.
Just so I could find some traffic. Guys, I'll give you my personal testimony. I played with DMR, and I still have a DMR radio. Got proficient with it. It seemed like I was always having to update my code plug on DMR, just a nonstop update process, and it was very digital sounding. My
Yes.
first experience with Yaesu System Fusion, the simplicity, like Thomas says, enter your call sign when you first power up the radio. As long as you program a repeater in with a mode for a digital option, that's the only difference that you make. Heck, I was traveling back from San Antonio yesterday, and I was tuning YSF repeaters on my VFO and talking as I was coming out of San Antonio. It's that easy.
Robert,
Yeah.
what we maintain, 4 repeaters? Is that right?
Yeah. Well, we don't maintain them. There's 4 repeaters. Oh, you mean in the club?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have 4 repeaters in the club, and we link 2 of them together during our net night. We have one that's right at 450 foot, and we'll link it into our regular Livingston 2-meter repeater, and then we call a second net, and we link it into the Trinity repeater. We're capable of linking that particular repeater to several different stations or repeaters around the area, but we do maintain 4 repeaters, yes.
Thomas, good work on your presentation and preparation for the content.
Thank you, Bill.
I
Brent-
enjoyed it. Thank you.
Yeah, Brenda, when you upload it, are you just gonna upload right over the top of the other one?
No, I'm gonna take the other one off, and I'm working on it right now. It should be up here in a few minutes.
All right,
And
well, the link Joe,
you
to
should have yours. I sent it to your email already.
yeah,
Oh,
and
thank
the
you.
link is in. Go ahead.
Sorry, Darren, we
The link
interrupted
is
you.
in the chat, so you can click on the link and go straight to the Tech Net website to that presentation.
That worked, Darren. I got it.
All right.
All right, folks. Well, good to see you all. I'm going to call it a night. Thanks for tuning in tonight.
Yep.
You have been listening to a TechNet presentation of the Crossroads Ham Radio Club. For more information on this club, go to www.crhrc.org. For information on upcoming TechNets, go to technet.crhrc.org.